Boost.
Good evening, everybody. Today I have an amazing guest joining Keith and I. It's England international and county gun Craig Overton. Craig, welcome to the Bowlers Union. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Good to be with you.
Yeah, we were a bit worried that. Well, I was worried. We were talking before turning the recording on about Keith and I. We share the Instagram account, and that's how we kind of tap up the prospects for the podcast. And I was on a dog walk, and I looked at the chat, and it looked like you and him had a fallout. So I was panicking that Keith had upset you.
It was almost it's almost like when we play against each other, there's always a bit of a clash, a bit of a kind of competitive edge against each other.
Yeah, there's always that competitiveness.
Yeah, like what's going on?
No, but yeah, it was all good. Just a bit of miscommunication in the writing over text, as you can always get on message. So yeah, it was all fine, and always buzzing when you sort of message. I was buzzing to sort of get on and obviously talk about bowling, because that's sort of what we do, isn't it? Our day job is bowling, and you've got to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear you say that, because obviously we wanted to do this last year. He bottled it. It was his idea. And it would have been great for last season. Then we obviously had the final, which we played in, which would have been brilliant to have had guests on and then talk about that final as well. But we got it there in the end. So it's good to start this and get as many people on as we can.
Yeah.
You're our first England international as well. Is that right, Keith? I'm just double checking. I don't want to upset anybody before I say that.
Clarky might have something to say about that, might you?
Yeah, Clarky's been on, so he's probably made a bit more than me as well.
He might. Oh yeah, sorry, Rick. Sorry. That's because, you know what? To be fair, we take Rick for granted because obviously we're so friendly with him, because he's an absolute jet of a player.
Yeah, he was a gun.
I just think of him as sort of that plonker who was 2 lockers down from me. You know what I mean? But are you going to do your quick fire questions, Keith?
We'll do the quick fire questions to start off. Seam or swing?
Seam.
Pace or bounce?
Bounce.
Back of the hand, slowy or knuckleball?
Because I'm crap at the back of the hand, knuckle.
Nick off or bowled?
Nick off.
Good bouncer or good yorker?
Good bouncer.
I knew that was coming.
Suits taller guys to be bouncers than yorkers for some reason. I don't know why, but I find it easier to bowl a good bouncer than a good yorker.
So you answered seam there rather than swing, but you can do both. You've shown it many times. I've seen you do it. Why is that with seam? Do you prefer?
I think seam obviously in England is quite a big factor, but like if you can seam it and I don't necessarily know which way I'm going to seam it. So like if I don't know, batters aren't going to know either. And it's swing. I think good batters can play swing, especially if it's early swing, whereas seam is always quite late, and it's harder for a batter to know how much it's going to seam and go from there. And so yeah, seam is probably more important than England, but obviously you do generally, it's the way I do it, it swings and then it seams as well with the swing almost. So yeah, I'd say seam a little bit more than swing, but if you've got both, you can use both.
Bounce of a pace?
Yeah, I think you're always in the game if it bounces. It doesn't matter what pace you are, really. I think if you've got bounce and you've got those carried to the slips, you can get batters out in all dismissals. Whereas sometimes if you don't have that bounce, you almost negate that sort of dismissal to the slips because it doesn't carry, and then you've got a bowl to the stumps. So then it's obviously that's when you probably need the pace rather than sort of accuracy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. You've already answered the reason as to why you got knuckle over back of hand slowy. Nick off or bowled? You answered
Nick off.
Nick off.
It's just a nicer dismissal. I don't know why. Obviously bowled's nice. I'll take any wickets, but yeah, Nick off just seems just looks nicer and a bit prettier, I guess.
Yeah, and then obviously you've explained bouncer as well. Seen you bowl them many a time, so
yeah. I just find Yorkers really hard. Obviously, because I'm quite tall.
Yeah,
my margins a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Just because if I miss slightly short, there's a bit more bounce.
Yeah.
And then if I miss full, it's obviously just a full toss. Whereas a good bouncer, you've got a bit of a leeway anyway.
I'd sent Wrighty the clips, but he hasn't been able to get them, put them on. Probably been a bit lazy, but at the Aegis Bowl, well, the Utility Bowl now it's been changed. You came round the wicket to me. You were 35 overs deep.
Yeah,
you've got nothing in you. You kept going off.
Yeah.
I thought, I could hear it. First ball bouncer underneath, and then you tried to pitch it up a bit, and I clipped it for a dot ball. But then you bowled me one of the best in swingers from around the wicket. It cut me in half, and I was like, all right, yeah, I forgot you can do that. But there was an incident which I did send Wrighty where our lads were struggling because you're very competitive, and you do part of your game is, you get stuck in, and you were following through almost the batter every ball.
Yeah.
Right, the lads were not feeling it. And I thought, I need to give myself some breathing space here. And I was walking up to him thinking he's going to move. He didn't have that. Just walked into him like, I've got to create a boundary. I need a space.
I remember that. But we're both very competitive people, and I think that's probably why we've got to the level that we have. Like, we don't like taking a backward step, and I always enjoyed playing against you, and sort of Ricky, going back to Ricky, he had that sort of competitive as well. As same as you, Righty. Like, I think that's what sometimes you need, that edge to sort of get into that battle. And I'll be the first to admit sometimes I step it too far, but like, I need that to get into a battle to be able to perform.
Yeah. No, I get you. I mean, you seem to have like this innate competitiveness, and you've got this kind of engine. It seems like you can kind of find a gear when you think you should be coming off. Do you know what I mean? I remember that spell you bowled up the hill at Grace Road. Would it have been 2021, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, probably 3 years ago now. Yeah, maybe 4.
Yeah, I mean, and the lads at the time were just like, that's unbelievable bowling. They were all saying it's the best spell they've ever faced. And am I right in thinking you think that was the best spell, one of the best spells you've ever bowled?
Yeah, probably. Just the rhythm wise, just felt really good, and a lot of the boys went to the other end, but I enjoyed bowling that end, and it actually just felt like I could run in as hard as I could and just hit the crease hard, and it all just sort of clicked from there, really. Yeah.
Class. I came out to bat. Unfortunately, I had to come out and bat. I think it was probably toward the end of your spell. And I think obviously the Langer was in the team as well. And I was walking out to bat. I walked past Tim Robinson, the umpire, and he looked at me like really seriously. He was like, "Have you got your chest guard on, yeah?" Like, he was genuinely concerned for me. When you're like, "Oh, Robbo, you're killing me here," because he was on an MCC tour that I've done before. So we kind of get on. But yeah, he was like genuinely concerned. He was like, "You've got all your kit on." I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" But yeah, it was an impressive spell. You light up the hill, clearly, smashing into that.
I've only played at Grace Road once, but I just enjoyed bowling uphill. But then if I go to Headingley, I prefer bowling down the hill. So it's like I don't know if this hill's not as steep at Grace Road, is it? So it feels a bit more like you can just charge in. And obviously, I think the wind was behind that game as well. So it's like just carried me and just felt really nice. And just, you get spells like that when you just click and everything just feels very comfortable, and you feel like you can just bowl and bowl and bowl, and nothing really wears you out. And it was just like that day. And yeah, it obviously came out pretty well.
No, it was impressive. You'd have enjoyed it, Keith, I reckon.
Oh, mate, I've seen enough spells from this guy. Trust me. Yeah.
I don't have to face you at the minute, which I'm not.
Right, he's realised this as well. Is that he was saying to me, we had Abol, we did an interview with Abol yesterday.
Yeah.
And Righty realised that all the good bowlers he's managed to get away with facing without facing.
Yeah.
I think you're one of them. And he likes to chirp, "Oh, have you found out about the short ball?" All this stuff with me, right? But he's actually, he's definitely in that category. Don't get that wrong.
You know what? Yeah. No, I reckon I faced you for what, 3 balls, maybe, if that.
I can't remember. I bowled against you a few times. I remember when I was a youngster, you played we played a second team game at Vale, and you made us all look silly.
No,
in your younger days. Yeah, I played that one. Yeah,
you played quite young. You and Jenny played quite young, didn't you? In the second.
Yeah, we were probably just turned 17. So yeah, we were both pretty young. Yeah, I remember you torturing us one game at Vale, swinging it around corners, and none of us knew what we were doing.
Did I remember that. Did Andy Caddick play?
He might have done. He that might have been his last year. I knew
Yeah.
I was around, but I can't quite remember. But yeah, it was obviously quite a while ago now. But yeah,
You're not unlike him, in terms of
no,
the way
yeah,
you
I've had
bowl.
sort of try and speak to. My girlfriend's really good friends with his daughter, so I sort of speak to him a fair bit about it and try and sort of get a few tips and things. Obviously, he was a world class bowler anyway, and took numerous wickets at Taunton when it was flat as a pancake. So try and get a few things from him. But yeah, he's good guy to talk to about it anyway.
Yeah, we had as you kind of do a little bit more in the second team, because I think Chris Silverwood was our second team coach. This was at Essex. This was a long time ago, so you must have been really young. Yeah. And he asked Caddy to have a little chat with the bowlers or whatever. Just the kind of little. There was about 4 of us who sort of sat around. But he hit me in the shoulder, just off I was going forward to play a full defence, which I don't really do very often, so I don't know why I did it then. And yeah, he just did me with a big away swinger, and it just bounced because he was obviously tall, wasn't he? Just took my shoulder off. I remember being like, Jesus Christ.
Probably because that flat bottom hand you've got right, but no.
I'm a different man now. But going back to me not facing amazing bowlers very often, I've mastered it. So I faced about 3 from you, and I think Jack Leach nicked me off. Yeah. Which, when you're like, Delanger hit me in the head, Craig ripping the edge off, I'll nip off to Leachy. Yeah, that's a sensible way to go.
That's sometimes part and parcel of like fast bowling. Like if you get to sort of the tail enders guys, you don't necessarily get out to the guys that bowl 90 mile an hour or bowl 85 plus hits. They get out to the sort of the spinners because that's who they think they can target. So we sort of try and work as a team, and obviously then as soon as you get the 10 wickets, it doesn't matter who's got them really. It's just means you can get off the park and put your feet up sometimes.
100%. What's your sort of go-to when you bowl at tail enders? Do you pepper them or do you just
no, I don't. Certain people I pepper barks. But no, I try and not conventionally. Like there's a reason why they're sort of a lower order. So if you bowl your best ball, then they shouldn't be able to survive it for too long, really. Obviously, some people can get stuck in, and so as I've got sort of older and sort of tail enders have developed and they can bat a bit more, you obviously change up a little bit more. But if you're bowling your best ball, then there's a reason why they're batting 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. To be honest,
obviously, growing up, you've got your brother Jamie. Obviously, both really, really good bowlers, great bowlers. I'm guessing it was quite competitive when you two were. Well, we've seen actually Surrey versus Somerset. What was it like? Obviously, because I don't know, has he always been quite quick, or was that a development from him? And what did you compare yourself? Was it pushing you to try harder, or like what was it like for you?
So yeah, Jamie's always been quick as a kid. So where we grew up as a club, he would always bowl with the wind. I'd always bowl into the wind. So I did always the hard yards, and he would run in and bowl rapid at sort of 15, 16. And then he just had that natural ability just to bowl quick. I was sort of steady away, sort of just try and hit good areas and sort of challenge batters that way, whereas he was trying to sort of just bowl as fast as he could and get wickets that way. So I've never really sort of tried to bowl rapid. I've got it in me occasionally. I can bowl spells, but I'm more sort of trying to go consistency and use my skills that I've got to sort of get batters out. Whereas he was always bowl as fast as I can, and not shy of hitting people and doing that sort of thing. So I guess that's where we're different slightly. And he's obviously done really well, and obviously moved to Surrey and shown what he's done to their attack. And I'm sort of proud of what he's done with the game.
With that, because like you weren't slow. I mean, you still hit the bat hard back then. But me and Wright were discussing before you came on. There was definitely something clicked somewhere where you added a good 2 yards to your actual bowling. I do remember it was at Edgbaston, right, wasn't it? You were bowling from City, and it was like, okay, this is a totally different Craig. Like, what happened? Where did it click? Was there anything that you tried to do that made that happen?
Yeah, so there was I sort of got into the England side, and then sort of obviously I bowled sort of 80 mile an hour, and it was just right. You need to try and find a way of sort of getting up a gear, a bit like what sort of Oaksy went through, sort of when he went first in. And we sort of played around with it in a little bit, and it was more my run up speed. Like when I sort of not dawdle in, but I like sort of lumber in and sort of thing. Was always sort of I just rolled out almost. Whereas actually, if I tried running in and having a bit more speed, and we sort of worked out it was like 23 Ks, 24 Ks. If my run up speed was right, it would all click, and I actually felt really good, and you can actually go down a bit quicker. So yeah, we worked really hard on that sort of for a winter with Stuart Barnes, and then sort of just tried to progress it and just try and clean up the action a little bit. Like my action's always been pretty clean, but just little things were sort of just slowing me down a little bit. So just try and clean it up, and it sort of clicked from there. In the last sort of year and a half, I've had a sort of few niggles, so I've had to sort of condense it a little bit and sort of stop doing as much. But hopefully the sort of surgery this winter's helped that, and I can get back to what I was doing.
What surgery was that, by the way?
So I had a microdiscectomy on my sort of L5 S1 disc. So I had sort of what was it? So I had to go all down my left side. I've had it for about 2 years. I've had epidurals and stuff to try and sort of numb the pain, and sort of heavy duty jabs in my back. But it just became a point where I couldn't run. I couldn't even sort of walk without it being in pain. So I had the surgery, and it's been fine ever since. I haven't had any neural pains, nothing. So it's been a bit of a slow progress this winter, but it was sort of needed, and hopefully I can sort of come back stronger from it.
That's good.
Man, that sounds a lot.
I'm
sure you will.
A lot of people don't actually understand. A lot of people who don't play as much as we do don't understand what we go through at times. I think you've had your back there. Right, said his back. I've had 3 knee operations in the last 11 months. It does take its toll, but to be as good as you are shows how impressive it is that you've had these niggles and these injuries, but still like having an epidural and still trying to carry on. It's fair play.
Yeah, I think that's.
Sorry, Craig, I've interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's right. It's sort of part and parcel of sport. I think as a bowler, you're going to get niggles, and sometimes you just have to turn up one day and get yourself in the right frame of mind and just go, right, this is what I'm going to do, and almost have that bit of grit and go, sod it, I'm just going to run in and sort of give everything to the team. And you're going to break at some point, but it's only a short career, and you might as well give it as all you can when you're doing it.
Yeah, no, I get that. There's I'm coaching I'm not going to say who actually, because I wouldn't want them to listen and hear, but this person wants to get quicker, but I keep quizzing them on, are you actually trying, like you've just said there, are you actually trying that hard to bowl quicker, or do you just sort of say it? Because it's a big commitment, isn't it, to push your body to the levels that you are, and people that want to bowl quick do. Like you say, you're running in that bit quicker, which means all of a sudden you're hitting the crease a lot harder. Just the extra force is going through, coupled with your drive to do well, and you end up bowling decent long spells and stuff. That's a lot for a body to handle.
No, yeah, it is, and we sort of worked quite hard over the winter, sort of doing shorter spells in the sort of the winter, and sort of getting that load of the body, get used to sort of running at that intensity. And you can't do it the whole time. The county summer is almost impossible to run in and bowl 100% the whole time. It's just physically impossible with the schedule. But as I've got older, you understand game situations, and when you sort of need to up the gear and sort of drop in, and that's when your skills come to work almost. And if you can sit at 85-90% in county cricket, you're going to do pretty well. And then with the odd game where you have to sort of go up a gear, and that's when you have to do it. And that comes with experience, really. And as I've got older, I've got better at doing that as well, rather than sort of just plodding around at 85-90% and sort of just doing the basis almost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, Ray.
Oh, I was going to say, we've obviously both played with Bassi, or Mohammed Abbas, and he, he confuses us to how he goes up and down the gears so easily. You've got the skill set and the tools, because you're a big unit, to do it actually quite well, to be fair, hasn't he, Keith? Thinking about it, you could stay, you could bowl within yourself, shape it up and get some nice swing, and then you could easily just with the wind up the hill at Grace Road or whatever, start bowling bombs. You know what I mean? Or maybe round the wicket at Keith against Hampshire, next year.
No, but I think that's one thing. What you've just said there with that is, I think there's a lot of county players, especially younger players, that go full tilt and don't find that gear, that 80 to 85% of being able to be consistent or in a good area with good skill, and then learning to actually shift up a gear when the time's right, when there's been a wicket or whatever, when there's someone under pressure. That's the difference, I think, from being a very, very, very good county bowler or international bowler to kind of being like not bang average, but your typical kind of seamer in county cricket.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as I've got older, I've tried to do more of the 100%, but obviously you can't. It's just not possible. So like you just naturally just have to drop in a little bit and sit in for periods of the time, and because your body will break down. And I've shown that the last sort of 2 years, like I haven't been fully fit, but your body does. You can't just do it non-stop from 18 to 20 to 30 bowling at 100%, because you will have injuries and you won't be able to get on the park. And sometimes it's all about getting on the park and playing cricket and try and win games for your side.
No, absolutely. Can we go back in time a little bit then? Because you and I went on England Lions tour together. So how old were you on that tour? Because that was what, 2012, 13?
I just finished, so that would have been 19. Yeah, just finished. I probably 18, turning 19. Yeah.
So I've geeked out. You made your Somerset debut that year as well, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, debut 2012. Yeah.
That's crazy. So did you have any awareness that you were being considered for that?
Not really. So I was sort of planning to go with the 19s to SA that winter, and then obviously I think the way it worked out, a lot of the England Lions boys, because obviously it was like that Stokes era, Rooty, Butler, those sort of guys were in the Lions, but they all got called up into the main team, which meant they filled a lot of the Lions with sort of the next group almost. And I found out sort of a week before that I was going to get called up, and obviously it was a trip to Australia that reckoned.
It was a good one, to be fair. It was a lively one. Do you remember?
It was a lively one. Yeah, I was rooming with Colsey that first trip. I was like, oh no.
I mean, to be fair, you were 19, right? And I'm a decent pro. I think I behave pretty well. I don't burn the candle at both ends or anything like that. That tour was wild.
Yeah,
people getting
wild,
sent home.
It was a tough tour as well, because we didn't win a game, did we? We had a good team and we didn't win a game.
Do you remember we were in Melbourne for our warm-up games, and Victoria just dealt with us, didn't they? Like three friendly games.
All 50 over games, and they pumped us.
Yeah, I remember being in a park, and Dave Parsons sort of sat us around.
Yeah,
and was sort of like, what's going on? Like, what's going on with the behaviour and all this kind of stuff? And I think, there were definitely some lads that got a bit excited.
Yeah,
living in Melbourne for a month and stuff.
Yeah, but it was a good tour, and it was a good tour for me just to experience sort of different cricketers. And obviously, I'd only been around sort of Somerset for sort of 3-4 months, and most of the time was just spent with sort of my kids my age, and going into an environment where people have played first class cricket for however many years and sort of knew what they're doing, and sort of can gauge yourself against them a little bit as well.
Well, you bowled superbly well, and I remember you. You actually gave the team loads of control, didn't you? Even though you were that young, you were kind of the one guy that was going, like below 5 and over, because it was 50 over cricket the whole trip. You were like Mr. Consistent.
That was back in the day when batters didn't whack it the whole time, wasn't it? You'd go at 5 and over.
Pretty sure I got hit for a few bombs on that trip.
I think we all did. I remember we had a few games in Tassie at the end, didn't we? 50 over games, and Finch took us apart, didn't he? He got 2 like 160s or something. It was like, wow, this guy's very good, and obviously he's had a great career with Australia. But it was just sort of trying to sort of stick in and just try and find ways that could help the team sort of. And I wasn't expressed then, so it was just trying to hit decent areas and almost like keep her up to stumps. Was it Folksy there? I can't remember if it was Folksy. Folksy kept him, obviously great keeper, so you could almost have him up to stumps even though you bowl sort of 82, 83 mile an hour, and did a really good job for us. And it was just sort of hit areas and just try and keep it as dry as possible, because they're obviously gunning it everywhere.
Would you say growing up, Craig, that was your main thing you did? Obviously, you had Jamie bowling rockets, you'd be up the hill. So were you just basing yourself on like trying to be accurate, hitting a good area?
Yeah, pretty much. My characters, I don't want to go for any runs, so it was basically just hit the top of the stumps and make it as hard as I can for batters to score. And yeah, that's basically what I've done. Tried to do out throughout my career. Obviously, as I've got older, I've got a bit more attacking, but still try and do the same things. Hate going for runs. You're playing against me. If I get hit for 4 through the slips, I'm not fuming, but I'm disappointed that I've gone for 4 runs. And even though I've probably bowled a good ball, and yeah, it's just hate going for runs.
So would you say you did that with different variations, like in swing or anything, or was that something you learned as you became?
The in swing I sort of learned probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a bit more. So I always bowled in swing growing up, but then I sort of got onto the academy at Somerset, and they were like, right, we need to swing it away conventionally. Like everyone should be able to swing the ball away. So I've sort of changed a few things and sort of managed to swing the ball away, and that was my sort of stock ball for sort of 3-4 years, and then I sort of went on a tour, and Kevin Shine sort of said, right, we need to sort of get a variation of not just swinging it away and obviously having the straight ball. It was obviously we had the wobble then, and it was like, right, we can try the in swinger because that's what I bowled as a kid, so I should be able to do it, and sort of tweaked around with it to sort of get the feeling of it, how an in swinger would come out, and that's obviously become one of sort of my main sort of weapons now is hit the stumps, and obviously the one that sort of swings away is sort of the one you can get batters nicked and caught behind.
Yeah. I know you were just talking, you and Righty, you 2 international players.
No, unfortunately not, mate.
Oh, great chat, international stuff, yeah. How have you found the difference in, like, well, one prepping from county to international stuff, and also type of wickets that you've played on?
The wickets are a lot better. They're a lot they're just generally good wickets. In England, you might get a bit more grass on it, so it does nip around. But I think I've only played 2 games in England, maybe 3, so I haven't played that many sort of test matches in England. When you go to Australia, they're sort of just good wickets. They don't really seam, they don't really do much. So you've sort of got to bowl your best balls the whole time and try and get a bit of swing. Obviously, the cooker doesn't really swing much anyway after sort of 5-10 overs, so it's that sort of bashing around good areas and trying to hit the wicket more. Whereas sort of the wickets in England in county cricket, they sort of tend to offer a little bit the whole time, especially with a Duke's ball anyway, like just stays harder for longer and you feel like you're in the game the whole time. Whereas in test cricket, you've got to bash pretty hard sort of the whole time and you have to be on your game 100% the whole time basically.
Can I ask on that? Because I've always wondered, because in test cricket, the over rates are a bit slower. So it looks, and I'm sure it's not, by the way, but you'll be able to tell me, it looks kind of more chilled. But then when you bowl, do you notice the extra effort you're having to put in?
I try and keep it the same. It's obviously the over rates are slower, but I don't think I think there's more put on fields and getting that right. And whereas in county cricket, you sort of have to go at 60 overs an hour. And if you don't, you're losing points, aren't you? So you sort of rush around a little bit more, if you know what I mean. And you don't have time to you get a plan and you stick for it for quite a while. Whereas in test cricket, you stick with it, you go with a plan, you do it for sort of half an hour and you sort of change again. So then you sort of reconfigure everything again, if you know what I mean.
Sounds like Jose Mourinho football tactics.
Yeah.
Well,
if you look at Stokesy, Stokesy is really deliberate about what fields he wants. So there's more time spent on that. Whereas in county cricket, you don't really get that. You might have a little sort of fiddle, but it's
2 and 1 in a ring.
Massive. Yeah, basically. But like that's sort of because the wickets, there's always something offering. You don't necessarily have to get too funky sometimes. You just stick to doing the basics and you'll get rewarded generally.
So I apologise. We had this last night with Abbo, actually. There's so many questions that come up. So you talked there about smashing a wicket. What's your kind of default these days? Is it more away swing or is it more hitting the pitch hard looking for wobble?
No, I still try and swing it away. Just try and my natural variation because of the way I sort of release it. I'm a little bit off it anyway, naturally. So, but I still manage to swing it away. So when I don't get it right, it naturally just runs into the stumps. If you get me,
right.
Sort of as a right-hander. So my bad habits of falling swing away a little bit actually helps me sometimes because it
Right.
naturally runs back into the stump, so I can get LBWs with that. And then obviously if it swings away, then I'm in the game anyway.
What about lefties, mate? I'm just asking for a friend.
I try and come around the wicket and swing it away. So like big in swingers basically to a right-hander, and just try and go across, and obviously then play around with sort of wobbles and trying to swing it back in occasionally. A bit similar to what Jimmy does in sort of around the wicket and sort of Broady, try and make them play as much as possible, but taking it away from them. That's probably what I generally do most. So yeah, try and keep it as simple as possible and try and set up batters, and then if you need to change, you change.
Yeah, go on, sorry, Chris.
Was that a big decision or not? Because as someone that can swing it back in, that's like me as well. I've been quite reluctant to go around. I don't love going around because I think mechanically it doesn't quite suit me. And I've always sort of said to myself, oh, but I can swing it back in, so I can go across from over, and then I've still got the innie for the bowled LBs. Or did you just go, nah, I'm going to kind of follow the game plan of going round? Because it's proven to work, isn't it, if you can do it?
No, yeah. To be honest, I've always struggled over the wicket swinging it back in consistently. Because I'm not I don't say I'm a massive swinger of the ball. So when I was over and swinging it back in, I'd always find that the inconsistencies of it, I'd always sort of miss wide. Whereas when I come around the wicket, I feel like I can run in, and my mechanics are actually better when I'm around the wicket anyway. I can run to sort of off stump for the left-hander, and my action will naturally just take the ball away. So it feels quite natural for me to do it. A bit similar to what Broady did. He was quite natural. Sort of the angles worked for him really well. And I've just found a way of it works for me. And yeah, just almost as soon as a left-hander comes in now, I'm around the wicket. Unless there's certain batters that actually you need to stay over the wicket to and take it across them, I would stay over. But more often than not, I'll be around the wicket trying to do that.
Yeah, because I look at your action. You're quite tall, and it makes total sense coming around the wicket to lefties. Someone like Wright, who's a little bit skiddier, I do think you would initially find it more difficult, but over time, I think you'd probably get a little bit taller once your body got used to it, to try and hit the deck. But you are someone's a bit skiddier, so you might not extract the same movement out of the wicket as someone like Craig would, because he's taller and gets a bit more bounce.
Also,
you're talking about nip, aren't you? From around, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So generally, like when you're over, you're trying to look for bowled and LBWs, aren't you? Really, if you're swinging it back in. Whereas because I'm taller, I hit the stumps, but I find it harder to hit the stumps, become a bit floaty. So if I come around the wicket, I can actually nick batters off and sort of challenge both sides of the bat a bit easier for some reason. And I think it's just find out what works for you. And obviously you prefer over the wicket. I prefer around the wicket, and that's what works for us. And each bowler's different, and no one bowls the same, do they?
No. And actually, again, we talk about Kyle Abbott, who we had on last night. It's amazing to hear your subtle differences, because he was talking about he didn't want too much bounce because it meant it was harder to hit the stumps.
Yeah.
Which obviously you've just said there, but you embrace it probably more than him, and you feel like you're happier getting nicks and stuff like that. It's it's good fun hearing all these different opinions.
But at the same time, sorry, Craig.
Go on.
What you mentioned earlier about your run up, he was someone mentioned about his run up, how he timed his run up. Him and his S&C timed his run up to find what was the best rhythm for him. Yeah. And I find it quite interesting. You've done something a little bit different, but you find the optimum speed you need to run in at for it to click in the best way possible for your action, for you to get the most out of the ball. So we are different, but we do things similar in certain types of ways.
There's the core concepts that you sort of need to get, but everyone can do it slightly differently, which is what I always find interesting about bowling, because no one's exactly the same, but people can get it that works for them. It will be completely different for someone else, but the basics are always very similar. So you get those basics right, and you can change certain things, but you need those basics to be able to bowl at a good level, I think.
100%. Who's inspired you or coached you, or you know what I mean? Who your favourite bowlers are? Who do you model yourself on?
So growing up, obviously, I was sort of around the era of the 2005 Ashes, so Flintoff was sort of a big thing for me. Sort of tried to emulate sort of what he's done. Obviously, he had a phenomenal international career and tried to do sort of similar roles to him. Coach-wise, sort of, I've sort of joined the academy at Somerset, and literally Jason Kerr has been my coach the whole way through, and sort of knows my action inside and out, and knows when everything is either right or something slightly wrong, and almost picks it up, not instantly, but pretty much instantly, and can almost like tweak it from a spell before lunch, and he could say, right, this you're doing this at lunchtime, and I can go out and almost fix it almost instantly after lunch, and then obviously everything just clicks from there. So he's sort of one that I sort of go to quite a lot if I'm not quite feeling right, because he just knows sort of me almost inside out, if you know what I mean.
Is he you have to forgive me, I don't know Jason Kerr really that well, which is surprising because I'm so old. But was did he start off as a bowling coach?
So yeah, so he was our lead academy coach, sort of academy director when I first started, and then turned to bowling coach at Somerset, yeah, and then now head coach.
Was Steve Snell academy or something involved with your?
He was academy coach, yes, but he was just after me, so I sort of made my debut, and he was sort of a year, maybe 2 years after me, I think. From
and
memory.
you've had Stephen Kirby since or not?
Yeah, we've had Curbs as bowling coach. It was good character. So yeah, he was really good actually. He's obviously very passionate, and obviously loves the game and wants to always help, and is that sort of guy that will do anything to sort of help you and improve. And yeah, he's a great guy, and obviously he's gone on to coach Zimbabwe as well. So he's obviously sort of high regard in the bowling world as well.
He makes me chuckle, Curbs. I don't know how much you've played against him, Keith, but obviously he's like on the pitch. He was really angry, right? He was like proper angry, but yet he was the nicest bloke ever. So you just knew he was the nicest bloke ever. So it was almost like impossible to fall for it. If you know what I mean. On the field.
You just if you played against him, you just laugh at what he did, just because you know what he's. If you know him off the pitch, so then him on the pitch, you just laugh at him and just like you're a bit of a plonker. But yeah, I think that's what makes cricket so good, that everyone has their own characters, and how they go about it is different. It's not just an individual. It's an individual sport played as a team as well. So like you can have your own traits, and as long as you're sort of doing everything to help the team win, I think that's what makes cricket good.
No, absolutely.
Just obviously you played for Somerset in the first team for quite a while now. Were there any bowlers when you were playing with that may have still be playing now or were finished that you thought were just another level?
Yeah, Alfonso Thomas was phenomenal. Obviously I was a bit younger, but the skills he had was ridiculous. Like he could swing it both ways with ease at decent pace. But then like in the white ball game, he was just silly good. Like he just hit hole for fun. Like he bowled, I don't know what the stats were, but I think he bowled obviously a lot of overs at Taunton in T20 cricket, and he was like bowled 2 in the power play, 2 at the death, and would go under 6s, which is just unreal really, and would just hit hole non-stop, and like but swing it up top, and then just hit hole, and batters just couldn't hit him. Obviously the groups are slightly different back when sort of Tomo was around, because it was the 3 groups of 6 in T20, wasn't it? I mean, was Warwickshire in the South group, or the South and West group?
They were for a while,
Midlands, wasn't it?
Oh, they were for a while. I do remember in the group stuff playing early on in my career.
It was probably 2012 to 15, maybe. It might have changed before then, but I remember we played against Warwickshire in a T20. I wasn't playing, but yeah, seeing Tomo Bar, it was just silly what he did.
Yeah, he's been doing it for years, and he was quite innovative as well. Like I remember the first time I ever saw kind of like a weird field, and you got to remember now things are very different. But he would bring his square leg up, so he bowled his Yorkers with square leg up. He'd have a fine leg, a cow, and a long on. Yeah, and I remember thinking at the time, like this bloke's nailing his Yorker here, but everyone would typically have a 45 and have the square leg up, and he was like, nah, doing it this way, and it worked. He was just obviously he's my head coach now, which is cool. Yeah. He has all these little, like you said, these little bits of knowledge. Like even last year, we were doing some kookaburra practice before the that phase of play we had.
Yeah.
Was it July we used kookaburras or something like that?
June. There was 2 games, wasn't there? There's 4 this year, isn't there? So that'd be interesting.
So we were doing some like reverse swing stuff, and I wanted to reverse it away, and I couldn't get the ball holding up. Obviously, getting it going in was fine, but I was like, I need it to, stand up a bit more and go away. And I was battling with it, and he was like, "Oh, just do this." And he basically said with a kookaburra, unlike a duke, he was like, with a kookaburra, you actually have to be a little more slingy to get it to reverse away. So literally, first ball felt a little bit more slingy, bang, hoops it away. You're like, yeah, it's amazing, all those little things. But he's, very knowledgeable.
But he obviously grew up in South Africa with a cooker as well. So that obviously having that more experience helps with it. And like, we don't obviously bowl much with a cooker, and it is slightly different. So when I go to Australia, I change my grip of the ball a little bit just to like almost get a bit more, so I can get a bit more rip on it, if you don't understand. So it goes slightly deeper, not deep in my hand, but slightly deeper. And so you can get a bit more like revs on it, and that actually makes it seam a bit more and swing potentially.
Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, this is interesting.
Which I actually learned. I learned that from Curbs. So Curbs got me played around with the cooker. So obviously I was going to the Ashes tour, and there was like, with the Dukes, obviously I can swing it, but with the cooker I'd always struggled to swing it a lot. So we just went deeper in the hand, and it tended to just to swing a little bit more. It wasn't much more, but just a little bit, which just gives you a bit of an edge.
Yeah. See, it's a funny thing, isn't it, when you change a ball? So, and obviously you two know me. So yeah, Duke ball, swing it away, no issues. Yeah, I found a kookaburra just harder to swing away. And for some reason, it just wouldn't come out as clean. So I end up slamming a length more, or trying to slam a length more. But there you go. See, I'll try and use that then. You reckon what? Just deeper in the hand?
Just slightly deeper. So it's almost like you have your whole finger on it, basically on the seam or just off the seam, and it just feels like you can rip down the back of the ball a bit more. So I hold it quite sort of the Dukes almost on my fingertips.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm quite loose. Whereas if you have it slightly deeper with a cooker, I find that you can get a bit more like pull behind it and get a bit more like backspin, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It just, for some reason, they swing more if they have more spin on it. Apparently.
The trouble with this podcast, Keith, right, is I'm 38 now. I'm going to listen to everyone that I speak to on here, and I am going to basically try and reinvent myself in the final years of my career and bowl a shower of, I won't swear, just trying all this stuff. Oh, well, Craig told me to hold it deeper. Abbo told me I've got to just nip it back.
Yeah. Abbo just wants to hit people on the shins.
15, 20 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
That's just sorry. Going back to Fonz, obviously I had him at Hampshire, and at one point, you do get coaches walking around the pitch quite a bit and standing behind the keeper's end watching you bowl. And he watched me bowl at, I can't remember, someone at Kent, and as I got to the top of the mark, I saw him just point and say, "Come wide." So he'd obviously seen something I hadn't. I thought I'd pick up quite a lot of cues on batsmen. Yeah. So I came wide, nicked off, thank you very much. I thought, yeah, fair play to him. Obviously, I've got to execute it, but the fact he noticed something, like, yeah, I rate that. He's
he's a very good sort of reader of the game and sort of knew what the skills he had. He could use them as well, and it was just phenomenal to watch. And when I first started, he bowled obviously rapid, and as he got older, he sort of the pace dropped a little bit, but he was still, the skills that he had was phenomenal. And I won't ever forget when he got 4 and 4. It was just this silly what he did that day. It was just bonkers, really.
It's funny you say that about him going behind the bowler's arm, because obviously, as senior bowlers, like we all are, you don't see that quite often, do you? But Fonz did it, like, obviously he's arrived at Leicester recently and was bowling coach, and he'd quite often do a lap and have a look from behind the keeper. And I remember seeing him there thinking, what's he looking at? You know what I mean? Having not had someone do that for a while, thinking this is getting on my nerves. This is like, what's the but yeah, so now I know he did it with you. That makes me feel a bit better. It's like a normal thing. My reluctance to do anything technical, Keith.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yes, very much so. I've tried helping write it out a few times. Just even like, I think this might help. This was Warwickshire might help, and he's sprayed me so hard. All right, fair enough. I won't say anything.
That's like me to Jamie. If I say anything technically to Jamie, he's like, "Nah, get lost." And but that's just us as brothers, and just like we're just so competitive. He was like, "I'm not listening to you," and then he'd probably try it when he's away, and he'd go like, "Yeah, that might work actually," but wouldn't tell me.
Do you miss playing cricket with Jamie?
obviously growing up together, we played non-stop together, so it is different, and it's definitely weird when we play against each other. And as we've done it a bit more, it's got a bit easier, but it still doesn't feel that nice doing it against each other, especially when he can hit me in the head quite easily. And but yeah, it's good fun because we're both competitive, but I don't enjoy the games as much playing against him as when I did with him.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's a weird dynamic, actually. Again, Leicestershire. I keep talking about Leicestershire, but we've got Callum.
No one's interested in Leicestershire, mate.
That's not true, mate. We're the Metro Bank champions, mate.
Oh yeah, right? Fair enough.
Beat you. So yeah, Callum and Matt play against each other for some reason all the bloody time. It feels like, but they just get each other out. It's the weirdest dynamic.
Yeah,
it looks like they just let each other. It's totally bizarre.
No, yeah, I hate if I play Jim. I'm desperately trying not to get out to him. He's got me out this year in the 4-day stuff. I got him out the year before in the T20. So like we've both got each other out now. So like we can stop doing that and just crack on almost. And
more importantly, which family member is rooting for who? That's what I want.
I don't think they're rooting for anyone. They're just happy to see us both playing. Dad said, don't take it easy on each other. When you play against each other, just do what you do and we'll be there to support you no matter what. And that's basically what we've grown up doing. It's just giving our best to the team that we're playing for. And that happens. So Jamie's for Surrey at the minute and I'm for Somerset. And when we play against each other, as long as we give everything there, they're supportive of what we do.
I mean, yeah, your family must be very proud to have 2 international cricketers in the household. That's some good genes that your parents have got.
Yeah, no, it was obviously it was a proud day when Jamie made his debut and obviously did really well and obviously hasn't had the opportunity since. But when he did play, he obviously made a game-changing sort of situation, getting that 96, and I think you'd have snapped your hand off getting that on debut. But was gutted when he got out because he should have just whacked it the night before rather than blocking it. But really proud of what he did, and it's a sort of nice that we both have played international cricket, and hopefully we can both play a bit more together.
Well, yeah. So I mean, this is just my theory, but I think England needs to. Obviously, I'm a huge Chris Woakes fan, right? Wokesy's the GOAT as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But I put. To be fair, you and Jamie are in that category of guys that can obviously. You're in the team for your bowling because you're obviously brilliant bowlers, but you can actually bat at 8. And I think England are missing that a little bit. Which I personally, I'd like to see. Yeah, you Woakes or Jamie in the team the whole time. I don't know how much do you speak to the guys at England, or do you hear from selectors and stuff? Or
I haven't actually heard anything. No. Obviously, I'd lost my sort of fast bowling contract this sort of year, but I haven't heard anything since. And I've just gone, right, if it happens again, it happens. If not, then I've just make sure I'm doing what I can for Somerset, and that sort of takes care of itself. And but yeah, it's one of those things that they never really speak to you that much because I think that's just the way it is, and they don't give you too much because they don't want you to get your hopes up, but then don't give you you quite like a little bit more, but just that's just the way it is sometimes, and you just sort of have to stick to what you're doing, and if you get close, then hopefully you get a call and you can go from there.
Well, if you keep taking wickets at the rate you do, I imagine I'd like to think you get a call,
Yeah, hopefully, but it's just it's one of those things that you just have to keep sticking to, and if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, then I've done everything I can to sort of get back into that side, and that's all you can do, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I want to say congrats on winning the T20 as well last season.
Thank you. Yeah, it was about time we won something after getting to so many finals and stuff. But yeah, it was a good day, and obviously nice that the weather sort of obviously ruined sort of the first game for you boys against Essex. But the fact that we got 2 games in basically with a 19 and a 20 sort of was nice, and it wasn't sort of a lottery, if you understand, if you know what I mean. Like when you get reduced games, they can be a bit of a lottery, can't they? And almost one guy can come off in a T20, but in a 10 over game, all you need is one guy to semi come off and they can win the game for you. And T20s is nice like that.
Yeah, I know you guys put your eggs in. It seemed like you put your eggs in one basket, like kind of going for it here. because we played you with a Kookaburra ball. Our lads were knackered that 4-day game.
Yeah, no,
There were only a few of us that hadn't played any T20 stuff. And it's one of those, it's almost like a sink or swim. We've got to give it everything. So I'm not, going into that final, it must have been quite well, a lot of pressure really for you guys going into that. Or were you quite free with it?
We were pretty relaxed about it. We had the sort of similar situation the year before where the guys went to Southport for a 4-day game against Lancs, and it literally went to day 4 right at the end. That ended in a draw, but our boys had bowled like 40 overs and they were knackered going into finals like 2 days later. So we sort of made a conscious decision that this year we're going to sort of rest guys. Like I would have been happy playing, but like, no, we're going to rest you to make sure you're ready for finals day and you can prep for that. And obviously, we had Hennes as well. Obviously, was phenomenal for us in the 4-day cricket and in T20, but just meant that we could all go in fresh, and we were all cooked at the end of finals day. So we were actually quite happy that we didn't play that 4-day game. But yeah, it was a long day, and I've never really sort of played 2 games of T20 like that, and it was just the intensity was just I couldn't run after I bowled my spell in the final. I was cooked, and I was getting cramp in every step that I just running around. Like it almost like the adrenaline just gets you through almost on that day. And yeah, it was a good day, and obviously nice to win it, and was a good celebration after.
You know what? I'm sure it was a good celebration after. And you were in. I'm assuming obviously you're Edgbaston. I was going to sort of make a joke about Taunton. Like this is completely off topic in terms of like nights out and Taunton being a bit of a dead town.
Yeah, there's not much going on, is there?
So you must have had a good night out in Birmingham. You must have cashed in.
We didn't because we didn't get back to the hotel till sort of gone 12. We sort of just stayed at the hotel and just chilled there basically. And they kept the bar open for us, and sort of all the families and stuff were there. All the supporters knew where we were staying, so they came and sort of joined in the bar. And I don't think some of the boys actually stopped drinking. We got on the bus the next morning at 10 o'clock and we started again. So yeah, it was
that's class.
Yeah, it was a good couple of days of celebration, and obviously then we had to get back into the 4-day grind and sort of go from there.
I don't know if you know, we rated our away grounds, and
I've seen this. I haven't seen the video, but I can't imagine Taunton's too high up on the list.
I didn't find it too bad.
Okay, like I've grown up in sort of further down south, so I sort of not around too big a cities anyway. So I sort of Taunton's very similar to where I grew up from. So I quite like Taunton, but I understand why when guys come down, they don't think there's actually much to do, because there probably isn't that much to do really.
Well, Wrighty judged it off the flat white. He asked for a coffee at your ground, and they asked him what size, and he what size.
We got a new, we got a new coffee stall, so you can come there. It might be all right.
You know what? If I play at Taunton, I'll be a very happy man. It means we'll be getting promoted this year, and then the following year I'll come and have a good coffee with you. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Taunton's nice. I was joking a bit, but I haven't bowled well there really historically.
It's people always say, obviously when I first started Taunton, they always said Taunton was flat as a pancake. I've always found that there's enough in it for bowlers. If you bowl well enough there's always something in it. Like back in the day, there was always the pace and the bounce, whereas there's probably less pace now, but I've always found there's bounce in it for me. So I've always sort of enjoyed bowling there. And it's always been a good test. The last sort of couple of years, they've sort of been sort of way bowler friendly, really. So yeah, it's been nice, but I've always sort of enjoyed bowling at Taunton just because there's been that bit of bounce there.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, no, yeah, it is. I completely see.
But I understand why you're saying, like, if you bowl badly at Taunton and don't get it quite right, you can go at 4 or 5 and over very quickly just because of the size of the ground.
I have my worst T20 experience, probably worst cricket experience ever. What had been about 2009, first TV game, I think, and under lights. Keyswater was playing against Neil Carter, and he smashed it straight over to me at third man. And I kid you not, this ball started fizzing. I could hear it fizz as soon as it left his bat. And I've caught it smack bang in the middle, dropped it. The abuse I got was unreal. But also, I remember when I walked out to start the game, all the lads darted off to different parts of the ground, and I was left. I don't know the spot. I don't know what the stand it is, but just around there, it was a bit bobbly. And
well, it was probably very bobbly back then because they hadn't done the outfield, so it's awful to field on.
If you walked out to the changing room now onto the pitch, one of your 2 o'clock, around that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock area, I can't think of it.
Down by the sort of it was the Hildy stand, maybe it was the Trez stand.
Yes,
like a little stand.
Yes, yeah. And I was there, stood at 45. And Trez has paddled one to me. I've gone steaming in, young, enthusiastic, pick it up, bobble through my hands, like massive. I've already dropped a catch. Yeah. Then everyone's gone mental.
I get stuck in again. I remember we had one game. I don't know if I was playing, but it was a T20 and we were playing Essex. Obviously, when you go to Essex, you get a bit of stick anyway, don't you? Just I don't know why, you just naturally do. And one of their 12th men came onto field for an over, and for 3 balls on the trot, all hit out to deep point, he fumbled every single one. And they were like just little like roll into him basically, but just bobbled just before, and they got stuck into him proper, but we do. And all like their dugout, our dugout, were just pissing ourselves laughing. He just needed it not to come to him, but just kept coming.
So I had that, and then Hildreth reversed one to me. Reverse paddle, same happened again. I'm at a deep square now, in front of the flat.
The flats. Yeah, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be that side.
Yeah, abuse there. Drops catch. This field 2. Ball comes out to me. I pick it up clean, massive way, and then I've gone to throw it in. I've literally gone over keeps. Everyone's scrambling, diving across the square.
Yeah.
That's the worst experience I've had.
Yeah. Taunton can be quite rowdy.
So I played a uni game. So this is way back when, right? Played a uni game against Exeter, and we stayed at Taunton to break the trip up because it was Cambridge all the way down. And I remember being in like a little travel lodge somewhere, and we asked the woman at reception, like, how do we walk into the town centre? Because am I right in thinking you've got the biggest or the longest Wetherspoons in the world or something? Is that true?
It is very long. I don't know if it is, but it's very, very long.
Yeah. So this woman was like, "Oh, okay, you go this way," and we were like, "That seems ages." And we got a map out on like a Google Maps, and she was like, "Oh no, don't go down Roman Road." She was like, "Don't go down Roman Road.
Stay away from there."
Is that a real notorious place?
Well, I wouldn't go near there. Put it that way. So yeah, it's
amazing.
I don't know. I've never been in. I don't know down the street, so I don't know how bad it is. But yeah, I've heard from a few people that actually grew up in Taunton and say to avoid it. So yeah, I wouldn't like to comment too much on that.
Brilliant. She was right.
Don't want to upset a few locals.
What's a local in Taunton like? Are they an avid cricket fan? Because obviously it is the main thing in the town, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of Taunton, sort of this area is massively cricket. Obviously we've got Taunton Town football, but you've either got to go to Exeter or Bristol for sort of the bigger football teams. So yeah, cricket is sort of the big thing in this little region, and which is why we sort of put so much sort of scope onto it and trying to get as much people to support us as possible, because we're sort of the big team in the area.
Yeah, you do a good job, to be fair. No, I know we joke, but it is mint. It is a great atmosphere there.
Yeah, we're very lucky with the crowd, and you can almost guarantee every T20 game is a sellout, and it's actually good fun to play in front of. And might not be nice for the away team, but we love playing in front of it, and hopefully the away team do love playing in it as well, because it is such a good atmosphere.
I will say I played majority Champo games there, but I do remember a few years ago how the older generation would be chasing down each other to get into the prime seats.
Oh yeah. When we had the old pavilion back when I first started, it probably left in 2014 maybe, and you'd open the gates at 10 o'clock and you'd see them all running to get right behind the bowler's arm into these old cinema seats, and it was like, just walk. You're gonna have a seat somewhere, like, but they all have to get their own seats, and they're all specified seats. So yeah, it's quite funny to watch, and yeah, they love cricket down here, and we're so grateful to have them, because we can sell out T20s, but we can also probably get 2,000-3,000 in for a Champo game, which is pretty rare around the circuit sometimes.
Yeah.
We've kept you for about an hour now, so it's about time that we sort of wrap up and stuff. But before we do, mate, what bit of advice or is there anything that you'd love to give out to the young bowlers? I say young bowlers, could be some old bowlers, but what bit of advice would you give them?
For me, it's I to any kid, I always say just go out and enjoy playing cricket. Like, I play cricket because I enjoy it. It's a perk that we get paid to play cricket, and but I say any job that you do, you have to enjoy it, because otherwise it becomes a bit of a chore. And I love going into the ground every day, sort of trying to work to be my best person possible and improve as a cricketer and winning games for Somerset. That's what I love to do. So enjoy it as much as you can. And for me, get into a battle and enjoy the challenge of playing against players that sometimes are better than you, and you're gonna have to find ways of getting them out, because you're not always going to be turning up every day and taking 7-8 wickets a game, because that's not going to happen. So you're going to have to sometimes work hard for your wickets, and you have to get stuck in sometimes.
Love it. Assuming you're happy with it, I'll put a clip of you and Barks on the YouTube video. So obviously this will be audio only, but on the edit for the YouTube, I can put the video of you two squaring up on it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which is quite funny.
I was actually quite scared because Barks is quite big as well, and I was like, no one normally stands up to me a little bit. I can sort of tower over most people.
Say this.
Whereas Barks actually stood up to me. I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Craig is the only person I'm 100% sure has definitely squared up with more players than I have. That's
You're a big teddy bear, really, Keith, aren't you? That's what I love about it. It's all for show, and beneath it all, you're a big teddy bear. You try it on, and you only try it on with good bowlers, though, don't you? It's only like your Andersons, your Overtons. You don't waste your energy with any, run-of-the-mill county players. It's just the internationals.
You got to stand up for yourself, haven't you? Craig, mate, it's been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant to have you on.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to chat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll play an outro. And look, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. And sorry, Keith had a go at you in the Instagram messages.
All good.
Take it easy, and wish you best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you.